Good day to you, viewers and listeners of the Visit Podcast, where we bring to you exclusive interviews with top personalities ranging from top kings to politicians to opinion holders and business leaders in the country. Today on the show, I'll be bringing to you an exclusive interview that I had with Dr. Dipo Awojide. Personally, this interview is like it's a milestone for me, considering that Dr. Dipo Awojide doesn't base in Nigeria, stays abroad. But he recently came to Nigeria, came to Oshogo in Osho State, where he had a program tagged MSME Masterclass, where he was able to give people knowledge, ideas that are compatible with modern day businesses. And he didn't just do that, he gave them free of charge and also provided a handful of people some grants. Ideally, it could have been alone, but he decided to make it a grant. So I sat with him after the program, I sat with him to discuss with him about his vision, what prompted him into doing that, what he wanted to achieve, his political inclination, online relevance, antagonism that he has faced online and how he has able to subdue it, and of course some of the topical issues of which he had faced online, among which was an issue involving financial misappropriation, of which he cleared his name during the show. I would like to use this moment to read to you a few lines in his biography. He's popularly known as Ogbeni Dipo online. He's of southwestern origin, Nigeria. He's a Yoruba by ethnic. He earned his BSc in accounting from the University of Abuja here in Nigeria before he proceeded to the United Kingdom, where he obtained MSc International Business with distinction from Coventry University and PhD in Strategic Management from Loughborough University. He's a UK-based Nigerian academic, management consultant, and personal development coach. He is a chartered management consultant and a member of the African Academy of Management, British Academy of Management, and an associate member of the Chartered Management Institute in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I present to you an exclusive, first of its type interview with Ogbeni Dipo Awojide. Good day to you, Dr. Dipo Awojide. My name is Country Adidu, and I'm the host of For Revisiting podcast. I've been a follower for years, and to say that I'm inspired by your works, your experiences, and your contributions to youth development online is to say the least. It cannot be gainsaid that you are an icon of hope for the youth in the country. So today, you are in Oshogo and you did a youth empowerment program. Can you tell us about the youth empowerment program and what it is?
Yeah, so we've actually come here to, host an MSME masterclass. So it's basically to promote small businesses because small businesses are the engine of growth for, in any country. MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises are very, very important. In our various communities all across Osun State, here in Oshogbo, Ede, Odeomu, Ikpetumodo, Ikire, Oshu, Ilesha, we need our entrepreneurs to actually, to do more. We need more young people to actually get involved in, starting a small business, running a small business, and scaling their small businesses. At the end of the day, we need to remember that nobody's coming to save us. Not the government, not the state government or the federal government. We have to go out there, get our hands dirty and even employ, more people, and help to solve the problems of the country by creating jobs for ourselves and other people.
You are excusing the government. If you say that the government cannot come and rescue us, either the state government nor the federal government,
Are you not excusing them of their responsibility?
No, so it's not. I mean, it's not excusing the government. The government definitely has, they have a very important role to play, and I mean the federal government and the state government. But at the end of the day, young people actually need to know that you have to get out of bed and get your hands dirty once again. We need to do the hard work. There are grants that are available, from the federal government, for example. They have several programs, that the federal government is actually, delivering for young people. We need to take advantage of those opportunities. But my message to young people is, don't wait for handouts. Don't wait for the federal government. Don't wait for the state government. Of course, we continue to hold them accountable, for delivering for the people, delivering good governance, grants, loans, MSME ops and what have you. But young people also need to get out of bed and do something for themselves.
You gave out 200,000 naira each to 10 people today. Are you being sponsored by someone, or it is from your pocket?
So this is private sector led. It's not from any government. It's not from, either the state government or the federal government. It's because, we have the passion. We want to see a lot more young people. We want to see our women actually do good for themselves. So we brought out, I think, 7 women, and I was going to donate, a token of 10,000 naira to those women who came with children today. And my friends actually stood up. There was Jerry, there was Oluye Akinwale, and there was Dr. Titi Lolagbadamosi as well, who also contributed. And each of those women are going to go home with 130,000 naira each. So this is not state government, it's not federal government. It's just that we want to see a lot more people, across the Southwest, across Yoruba land, and of course, across the entire country, actually do well for themselves.
That Yoruba land part, I'm coming there. But before we get there, you came all the way from the UK. And sincerely, there is this, I do not want to call it a rumor, but do you intend to venture into politics?
So currently, I am a senior management consultant in the UK. I honestly don't know what the future holds. I mean, who knows what is going to happen tomorrow? But whatever happens tomorrow, we would all find out. But currently, there are no plans of such.
You are more into education sector.
Yeah.
And I would really like us to go into that. Especially the current education system in Nigeria. Do you think it is preparing our youth, our students and the youth, of course, for the future of work?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we there's a lot. There's a lot that can be improved upon. In the education sector, for example, we need curriculum refresh. We need, major reforms, autonomy for higher education, for basic education and higher education. We need more infrastructure across our schools, across our polytechnics and universities. The current Minister of Education is trying his best. I've seen several initiatives, by the Ministry of Education. Dr. Alausa, I would say, is a reformer, is a performer. But of course, there's a lot more that we need to do. Our hostels, for example, are dilapidated. A lot of our buildings across our federal institutions, they need, a facelift. The curriculum, I think for basic education was currently, I think it was maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, they had like an upgrade. I think teaching digital skills, across our schools, vocational skills, they are very, very important. But there's always going to be room for improvement in the education sector. I'm very, very passionate about the human capital development, about the human capital sector. And, so I've actually been following the work of UBEC in the last, decade, last 10, 15 years. There are state governments that have, they have money in Abuja. All they need is counterpart funding to actually access those monies to use to reform, to improve basic education in their own states. And a lot of them don't actually spend on those things, but they spend on money for Jerusalem, money for Mecca, cars for traditional institutions. I'm not saying that we shouldn't spend on those things, but the education sector has to be prioritized.
It is a common knowledge that Nigerian youth, some say they are not employable. Do you think they are not employable?
So that's a very that question.
And if they are unemployable, what do you think is missing?
There are loads of young people who are unemployable. Then we also have thousands, and I dare say millions of our youth who are employable, but they don't have the opportunities. So for those who are unemployable, all we need to do is equip them with the skills, with the competencies, the knowledge and experience they need, to actually become more productive and contribute to the economy of the country. So trainings by private sector, led initiatives, just like what we did today, giving people the skills, the experience, the knowledge to actually start a small business. But, the government has a lot to do. Beyond NEL Fund, there's a need to actually, have maybe like a finishing school. Our universities as well, we need to teach beyond theoretical concepts. We might need to have like a placement year for our business and management students, for our engineering students. I know they have SciWest already. So reform the education sector in such a way that it is not just, theory led or we're just, in a classroom. You could have 1 year placement in the industry. And by the time you come out as a business management or an accounting student, you already have 1 year experience working in the industry. All of this can help to revolutionize the country.
The education sector is underfunded. How do you expect them to do all of this?
I completely agree that the education sector is underfunded, but so is other sectors, within the country. There's the power sector, there's roads, infrastructure, healthcare. There are so many things that, a lot of people actually believe that Nigeria is a rich country. I honestly believe that we are not so rich. You have states like Texas, California, and some US states, that their budget is larger than the budget of some African countries. So Nigeria, coming back to Nigeria now, I honestly don't think that we are a rich country. We have competing needs. But as someone who cares about human capital development, as someone who cares about the education sector, of course, I want the government to spend more, on the education sector. Infrastructure, training, welfare of academics. Professors, for example, our lecturers and senior lecturers, we need them to earn more for the work that they do.
You after your BSc, you traveled out of the country, you studied in the UK, and you are now back into the country at least once in a while to do things like this, empowerment, coaching, and stuff. But majority of our youth, if they have the opportunity, are willing to jackpot. Let me use the word jackpot now. The jackpot syndrome is a menace, especially on our health sector, in which we produce some of the best medical students in the world, and they get to travel out of the country. They don't even get to use the knowledge for the betterment of the country. What do you say about jackpot syndrome and the effect, the aftermath effect?
Yeah, so there's a positive side and a negative side, isn't it? What do we want to focus on? Do we want to focus on the positives, diaspora remittances, or do we want to focus on the brain drain, and which one of them is, which one? At the end of the day, I've said to people that you can make it in Nigeria and you can make it abroad. I don't discourage anyone from going abroad. Go abroad, go and learn. I always use the experience of, the Chicago boys of Chile. The Chicago boys of Chile, actually left Chile, went to Chicago, learned so much from the business schools, engineering schools, and they went back to Chile to go and develop the country. A lot of them actually started businesses. Some of them ended up in government and in politics. So those who want to travel out, at the end of the day, we cannot stop anybody. But once you've been out there, once you've learned on a global stage, once you have the experience and the exposure on a global stage, what are you going to do with that knowledge? It honestly doesn't matter if after 5 years you carry a British passport or an American passport. I carry a British passport, but trust me, I'm a full-blooded Nigerian. And this is why I keep coming back here. This is my third time in how many months? Maybe 6 months in Nigeria. So let's give them wings to fly across the world, but let everybody remember that at the end of the day, this is our motherland. And if we don't come back to fix it, no one is going to do that job for us.
At the end of the day, the diaspora remittance that you spoke about is actually a very commendable way of contributing to the country, and significantly over the last couple of months it has increased. But more than that, our health sector is dilapidating. People are traveling out. We can barely boast of one doctor to 100 people in Nigeria today. And people keep producing them, we keep producing graduates, medical graduates, and they are traveling out. As a public figure on the internet, especially on Twitter, what do you say is the role of social media in youth emancipation? I mean, in the modern day, because of course it has been intoxicated by but what do you do? What do you suggest we do, and what's the future of social media?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, so we went for the digital summit organized by Olusegun Dada, the special assistant to the president on social media, a couple of months ago, and the mandates that the president gave to us, all Nigerians, was to use our platforms for good, use our influence to promote love, unity, and peace across the country. That message is a very difficult one to cascade, all across the country, because you have people who are genuinely dissatisfied. Then you have other people who are just, I don't know how to describe them, but you know exactly what I mean. At the end of the day, what we can do is to give back to our community, give back to our country, be kind, use our platforms to actually encourage people. So our medical doctors, for example, that are traveling out of the country, we can tell them, hey, if you remain here, you can impact the lives of thousands and millions of people in your community. That might be enough incentive. Whilst on the other side, we continue to advocate for the federal government and the state government to pay them a lot more. Their welfare, their families, people actually want decent life and a better life for themselves and for their families. So if we are able to get some people to stay back, ultimately that's good. If we are able to train more people, again, ultimately that's good. I'm not sure if he was, I honestly can't remember, but I think it was one of the popular Nigerian lawyers that actually said, if you've gone to a medical school, then you have to stay back in the country for maybe 3 years or 5 years, give back to the country before you can actually travel out. I honestly don't have any opinion on that for now. I'm going to let the folks in the healthcare sector, actually shape that conversation. But ultimately, there's a lot that happens on social media, and the importance of how conversations are shaped, on how the country can be promoted, on how we can ensure that we have civil conversations. Even when you disagree, it doesn't have to lead to insult and abuses, and how we can use our platforms to shape this country, promote this country. I think that's what we need to focus on.
You were a part of the digital summit that happened in the Aso Villa recently, and a lot of people have ascribed you to APC. Are you an APC member?
Oh, well, at the end of the day, we all have our biases, isn't it? I have my personal biases. I am a progressive. I am a progressive at heart. I am an ardent follower of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who is our icon, who is our hero. We have legends here in Osun State. Chief Bola Ige is one of such people. I am a progressive at heart.
Okay, because the obedient, I mean your nemesis online, the obedient, they've come for you a lot of time. You, Eginope, and a host of others, including Oloye.
Yep.
Akinwale, and you have meticulously dealt with this for for the past years, and they keep coming for you, but there may not be any form of peace breaking between both of you. How do you intend to keep dealing with?
At the end of the day, so let me even say, in Osun State here, we have PDP, we have APC, and other parties. I honestly don't even think the Obedient or whoever, whatever their name is, I don't think anybody in Osun State cares about them that much. Again, I'm going to go back to our icon, our hero, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who was the first person to introduce debates and manifestos in this country. That's the legacy that we inherited. We want to talk about the health sector, the education sector, roads, infrastructure, electricity. We want to talk about how we can create jobs for our people, for the millions of graduates that we produce from all our universities across the country. We are not interested in insults, abuses, blackmail, all sort of defamatory, libelous comment online or offline, political violence, attacking people. That is not what we inherited from our fathers. That is not what we inherited from our forefathers. Perhaps that is what some other people inherited from their own fathers and godfathers. But we are different. Omolua Biniwa, we debate ideas and policies.
You have debated repeatedly online, and nothing has actually changed people's mind. And 2027 is approaching, and they will still come for you. And
Do you actually think that people's minds are not being changed? I think 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a lot of people on social media felt bullied. They couldn't openly come out to say that I'm a supporter of the APC or I'm a supporter of the PDP or any of the other mushroom parties. Now everybody can openly and boldly say that this is a party I support. What are you going to do about it? Other than cry on social media, other than abuse them. And your abuses and insults doesn't change anything. People have the liberty and the freedom to support whosoever they want to support in this country. This is not North Korea. This is the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Anybody can support any party and any candidates. At the end of the day, we run a democracy, and it is one man, one vote. Ijako, Ariwoko, let's meet at the ballot.
With this tone and the vibration, I am expecting you in politics very soon. Maybe House of Rep in 2027.
Who knows? Who knows what? Who knows what the future holds? We're gonna find out.
Okay. Your issue with Oluomo of Debi, if you don't mind talking about it.
I honestly don't want to get personal, discussing individuals. But yeah, so with NIUK, corruption, mismanagement, fraud was, exposed. And I'm not just saying this, the facts are there. The facts were presented, to the general public. And, they said, oh, Dipo and other people want to take over. Nobody wants to take over from anybody. I was founder and president of the Nigerian Society at Loughborough University in 2012, 2013. So all of these things, I've done this 15, 16, 17 years ago. If you are given a public position, if you are the president of a society or you are an exco of a society, please make sure to do well to give back to that community. Don't steal from people, because people are not going to forget. Don't take advantage of people. Don't defraud anyone. When we were doing Nigerian community stuff in the UK, we used to go and pick people from the airport. We used to help people, all across the country, and we didn't take advantage of anyone. In 15, 16 years, nobody ever came and said, oh, this guy defrauded me, or Benedict took money from me and didn't. it wasn't a money-making venture. We had our daily jobs. We had what we were doing. It was not, leading a community in Nigerian society was not hustle. It wasn't what we expected to feed our families with. So I don't want to get personal, but at the end of the day, the people have to decide what they want. If you're preaching good governance and accountability for the federal government and the state government, I think it's only appropriate that if you are given a position of authority, anywhere across the world, you also need to be accountable to the people.
Let's come back to your terrain, the education line. Having the opportunity, let's say you are made the Commissioner of Education in Osun State today. What do you intend to do differently?
I don't know who is going to make me Commissioner of Education.
Your participation in politics, perhaps.
No, but honestly, I always tweet about the education sector, and I post on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and I share ideas. Curriculum reform is one of them. We need to reform the curriculum in such a way that basic education, tertiary education, that we are teaching skills, not just theoretical concepts. Placement year. A lot of people need to go, more people need to go on placement year, not just sideways. Yeah. Infrastructure. That is very, very important. The training of academics, paying academics a lot more. All our teachers. I don't know if in Osun State, teachers earn 30,000 naira, but there are places across this country, where teachers earn 30,000, 40,000 on a monthly basis. I honestly don't think that 30,000 or 40,000 naira can take any teacher home anywhere across this country. So investing in public libraries, investing in a database, for all our children. We have BVN, we have NIN, we have all these things. We need a comprehensive database of all our kids. All the children born in every local government in this state. Every child must go to school so that we don't have any child don't kiri dodo kiri or don't when they should be in school. Mental health care. We need to actually, and there's a lot of training that has to happen. Because for you to actually impact the lives of the children, you first of all need to take care of the teachers, the academics, and the administrators. So these are some ideas, that we can actually implement here in Osun State. But first of all, we need to take a stock. So what is the current state? Where are we at the moment? And where do we need to be? That's what we need to start with.
I suppose you omitted tech.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because AI now is the future of everything.
Yeah, definitely. So when you do curriculum, so the adjustments they've done to the curriculum at the federal level now, if states actually go on to do something similar, that would really be good. Tech, digital skills, the creative sector, there are loads of opportunities. Vocational sectors, we need to find a way to actually inculcate this in our basic and tertiary education sector.
Because I feel like we are not talking about something enough in Nigeria. The AI. Because as much as we want to talk about it, many of us are even shy away from talking about it because at the end of the day, it may affect our own professions. So people barely talk about it in the way that we should talk about it. Do you think it is appropriate to inculcate AI into our education sector in the primary level?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I have 2 kids, and my kids know how to operate a phone. They know how to operate a laptop. They can go on YouTube by themselves, of course, supervised by we the parents. But I didn't have a laptop until I was maybe 17 years old, maybe 18 years old. I think I was already in my second year at uni before I, had my own personal laptop. And, my parents are relatively well-to-do, I can say that, and if I only had a laptop at, that age, think about, all across this country, think about people in Zamfara, in Sokoto, all across, even here in Yoruba land, we definitely need as much tech and digital knowledge that we need. The jobs of the future are changing. We need to evolve, and this starts from the basic level. There's this popular Nigerian saying that catch them young. We definitely need to catch our people young. you know so when I was younger, and we used to, when I was in primary school and secondary school in Abuja, you had maybe 3 computers or 2 computers for the entire university or for the entire secondary school or primary school, and they would cover it up with a black whatever it is, and you only got to see that computer maybe once in a term or twice in a term. How about actually having, computers, internet accessibility all across our primary schools, all across our secondary schools, and all across our universities and polytechnics and colleges of education? I think that will make a whole lot of difference.
You are someone from a relatively okay background. How does that influence your career choice and life decisions?
Yeah, I think it's a privilege that I don't take advantage of, because there are loads of young people like me who want to do a master's degree, either abroad or in Nigeria, or, even a PhD, and they don't have, those opportunities. Some people actually struggle to get, to provide those opportunities, for themselves. But I am humble enough to actually recognize, my background, and I also try as much as possible to give a ladder to other people. So those who need maybe 100,000, 200,000 to pay for a master's form, or, to pay for their tuition, I try as much as possible to help as many people as possible. It's never going to be enough. It's definitely never going to be enough. But, folks who are privileged, they definitely, like me, we need to do more to give back to our people.
If you get to interact with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu today, what will you tell him?
I would first of all thank him for Nel Fund, again, because the education sector is my primary constituency. I would thank him for Nel Fund. I would thank him for Smedan. But I would also say to him that our young people, we need more opportunities. We need, and I honestly don't know if this is principally at the remit of the federal government or at the state government level. Lagos State, for example, has LSETF, Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. So for our young people, a lot of people need opportunities, grants. A grant of 1 million naira, 2 million naira, 5 million naira would go a long way. At the federal level, at the state level, a lot of young people have business ideas, but because there's lack of resources, they don't have money, they don't have the finances, they don't have tech hubs, something as little as a tech space, somewhere where you can work. So I would say to the president that, our young people need more opportunities. I would say to the president that, the education sector, we need more reforms. I would champion that all our communities across the country. Of course, the federal government is already doing, decently for young people across the country, but I'll be asking for more for our people.
Then, how do you rate the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
We are coming from a very difficult place. We've had several reforms in the last 2 years since the president actually assumed. There's been the tax reform, which is going to take off in 2020, 2026, isn't it? There's the local government reform, which is,
in the pipeline.
in the pipeline. In the education sector, there's a whole lot of things that have been done. Again, Nel Fund is a game changer. I actually, over the last 10 years, 10, 12 years, I should say, I've been advocating for a student loan, across this country. So I actually really appreciate that people from indigent backgrounds, millions of young Nigerians from humble backgrounds have an education. They have an opportunity to get an education. Who knows what is going to happen in 5 years? Maybe the government is going to wipe out the loans. Maybe we're going to have more jobs so that people can actually, they have the resources to pay back those loans. Who knows what is going to happen? But these are some reforms that I can say that I can commend the president for. Things are still very difficult in the education sector. ASU hasn't gone on strike. There have been warnings, there have been threats of strike, but they haven't gone on strike. Things are not perfect, I must say, because I have some friends who are academics, here in Nigeria, and they have a lot of demands. I would urge the federal government to try as much as possible to continue to meet the demands of ASU. But ultimately, we need to sit down to decide what exactly we want to do with the higher education sector. Do we want full autonomy?
That's even what I want us to talk about after this.
Do we want full autonomy for the universities so that they can generate their own money and decide how they spend it? Do they want to invest in hostels? What exactly publishing companies? What exactly do they want to do to make sure that they can make enough money to sustain themselves? Is that going to increase the tuition? I honestly don't know.
Definitely. Because if it gets to work now, the tuition will be increased, and considering the monthly salary, minimum wage in Nigeria, I suppose a lot of students will be out of school if we get to implement that. We say our economy has arrived to the point that parents can actually afford 300, 400,000.
No, definitely. If you are a civil servant and your minimum wage is 80,000 or 100,000 naira, it's definitely going to be difficult, for you to afford 300,000 naira tuition fee, especially if you have 3 kids or 4 kids. I'm not going to say that families are not going to be challenged, or but we now have NEL fund. They can take advantage of that opportunity, and we can continue to ask for more. We can continue to say, maybe NEL fund now has 600,000 beneficiaries. Can we double that to 1.2 million or 1.5 million before the end of 2026, or by the end of 2027? Can we get 2.5 million beneficiaries for NEL fund?
It is a common knowledge that during the time of late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, he prioritized primary education, which helped produce some of the best, in fact, the best set of students then, of which primary school education was sufficient to push someone to some extent in life before they got to standard school from 1, from 2, and go. Now that this primary education has been shifted to the local government level, and the local government are not even getting their allocation directly from the federal government. Some majority of state governors are sitting on this allocation, which has damaged the product of primary education, of which majority of government primary school today cannot speak good English. They cannot speak good English. That's why we have a lot of bad results in WAEC, because what do they produce for secondary school? Teachers are underfunded, schools are underfunded, many of them are sitting in dilapidated buildings, and the governors are sitting on the money that is supposed to be going directly to them. What do you say to this? Because even at the end of the day, just like Professor Yuvano Harari said in 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, that if we are dealing with a problem from the top, from the rooftop, and we are not dealing with it from the foundation, we are not going to get a good result at the end of the day.
I said earlier that there are states that have UBEC counterpart, money in Abuja. All they need to do is provide counterpart funding for them to access that money. At the end of the day, we have to continue to advocate that the state government and local governments, all across the country, that they do more for the people. So in the UK where I live, the local council basically does everything. Fire service, the schools, your rubbish collection, your bin collection. We pay council tax, and they actually look after the councils. So I think the reform that the president is trying to implement as regards local government autonomy, I think is good. So everybody will now go and focus at the local level. Let us hold our local government, the chairman or chairwomen, whatever, let's hold them to account. You can't be a local government chairman in Odeomu, Ayedade local government, or Irewole, or Ilesha, or Oshu, and you are living in Lagos. or you are a local government chairman in, Yaba, and you are living in Victoria Island, or you are living in Abuja, it doesn't make any sense. So we need to elect people who are competent to run our local governments, and we need to hold them accountable. I honestly believe that way, that's the only way we're going to make any significant progress. Otherwise, nothing significant is going to change.
Because at the end of the day, this is a problem that has been there and will continue to be there if we don't talk about it enough. Because at the end of it, I think our government nowadays, when we talk, I think they seem to listen more than before. That we just shout and people will not, they will not take interest. Now that majority of us are online, we are online and we are taking interest. We are talking about things that we want. I really hope that they are going to do well in that regard too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so you spoke about, I've read the biography of Chief Obafemi Awolowo several times, all of his speeches, I've read his books. He had a vision for southwestern Nigeria, and he had a vision for the entire country. When he started his free education program across, western Nigeria, which included, Edo State, current Delta State, and all across Yoruba land, there were people who laughed at him. 5 years after, they were not laughing. 10 years after, 15 years afterwards, they were not laughing anymore. So it is up to us as a people to elect exposed, competent, and educated people. I honestly don't know how you have a House of Rep member, or you have a senator, or you have elected government officials who are not properly educated, and people decide to put them into office. They haven't got good education, they haven't got exposure. Where do you think the ideas are going to come from? So we, the people, also need to demand more from the people that we, elect the right people in the first place, and demand more from these people who are being put into office. How many Obafemi Awolowos do we have now all across this country? We need to actually go back to the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and look at the programs and the manifestos of some of our old leaders.
I actually have a counter view to this, because looking at it from the angle of the education, the level of education, Professor Ben Ayadi, I do not mean to call him out because he said we shouldn't make this personal. He was a governor of Cross Rivers for 2 times between 2015 and 2023. I cannot say he performed well, because a lot of people are aware he came up with budget of cataclysm, or gigantic, all these things. At the end of the day, they amounted to nothing. And the people that actually came up with the best education system that you talked about, the likes of Awolowo, they actually got minimal education. They got minimal education and they were able to do well. Even the people that invented some of the things that we are using today, they got minimal education and they were able to do well. And now that we even have people like doctors, professors at the end of affairs, they are doing nothing. Do you think education should be the education level? I mean, the attainment, the degrees should be the yardstick for measuring the efficiency of a political leader?
Tó bá ti bàjẹ́ láti ilẹ̀, if you haven't got the foundation right, whatever you build on it becomes very problematic. And it's always good to disagree. Again, this is one of the legacies of, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. I say that at the end of the day, we need a lot more people who are adequately educated. You don't need to have a PhD. You honestly don't need to have a PhD. If you have an MBA, fine. If you have a master's degree, fine. But basics, a bachelor's degree, a law degree, LLM, just something, a BA degree, just go to school, or, get an HND, just equip yourself, because it is out of the abundance of the heart, or what is this Nigerian parlance, that it is from what you have that you can give. If you are not exposed, if you are not educated, the quality of your ideas of your world view will definitely be limited. So I honestly think that, we need a lot more people. If the educated people decide to stay away, expose people, you just want to complain on social media every day, you're going to get what you get.
Some people are of the opinion that some courses are irrelevant in the 21st century, especially this post-modern world that we are. Do you think some courses are actually irrelevant?
I mean, that's a very controversial one. Some British universities are, phasing out certain courses. So it's up to us as young people to, again, earlier I spoke about jobs of the future. What skills and competencies, do companies require? What skills and competencies do you need to start a small business and lead a decent life? I think the degree is important. Passing through a university, a polytechnic, a college of education is very, very important. But ultimately, what skills and competencies are you graduating with? What do you know how to do? So beyond the degree, beyond the paper certificate, what skills, competencies, and capabilities do you have? What do you know how to do? I think that should be the next level that we focus on.
I really hope and pray that we get to talk again. I really do, because there are actually a lot that we're supposed to talk about. If someone is seeing you for the first time, what do you intend to, like if someone is seeing your video interview for the first time, what do you have for such a person? Or someone who might have had a kind of misconstrued perception of you. Do you intend to?
I mean, a lot of people don't know you, and because of what other people say, they make up an opinion about you. I honestly don't care about such people. I do have a good heart. I love my community. I love my people. I love the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I am a true born Yoruba son. I am proud of my heritage here in Osun State. I'm from Odeomu, Aidade local government. I am pan-Nigerian and staunchly so, but I also I know where my father came from. I know where my grandfather actually, came from, from Old Oyo to Modeke to Odeomu, so I know who I am. I am a young, confident, confident young man. I see myself as a born leader. I was lucky enough or privileged enough, to be, to get a very decent education in this country and outside of this country. I am passionate about the growth of this state, about Southwest, and of course the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For the naysayers, good luck to them.
So the last question is actually personal for me. Mr. Wale Adeyemo, the former Deputy Secretary of Treasury in the US. His origin is from Odeomu.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Are you just knowing?
No. Yes, definitely. I know. Yes. Yeah.
Have you established a line of communication with him?
No, I haven't.
He came to Nigeria recently.
Yes, I know. So when he came to Nigeria, I was actually in the UK. Of course, I work in defense and security, but there's that, you just need to leave people to do their jobs, isn't it? I believe that he knows his roots, but his allegiances, he currently works, for, the US government, and he has to deliver, for the people in that country. You would expect that, just like we are doing and other people are doing, that everybody finds their roots. At the end of the day, only Tomobadagba, Umamole, Babai, no matter where you go, no matter the passport you carry, at the end of the day, you're going to find your roots, back to your motherland and to your home.
Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.